Alright guys, we are going to put on the oil filter adapter. This needs to be put on first before we put the pump and pan on, because when the pump and pan come up and on here, the pump sits up here, so it kind of blocks access to this oil filter adapter plate. There's some gaskets on these, so you just want to make sure the O-rings just stay in place as you go to put these on. So I'm going to put a couple of these in by hand and get this thing started. No, cut them off if you need to. In fact, that was my plan for a while. One little update, guys. When you install your oil filter adapter, you're gonna want that that clocked fitting. That's your return line from your oil cooler, which is eventually gonna be your supply line. You want that fitting clocked out here towards the front of the car, the front right passenger wheel. You want it clocked in that direction because obviously, as you can see, it's pretty close to the outlets of the water pump, or I guess the little the heater core routing of the water pump. So yeah, you want your fitting clocked like that. You should probably do it before you install it. It'll probably make it a little easier, so just have that clocked in that direction before you install it. It'll take a decent amount of force, but not a ton. It's a tapered thread, so it's not going to thread all the way in, but yeah, so there you go. See if we can go in here and see exactly how the oil pressure switch comes in here, where it would be in relation to those fittings. Hopefully you can see that with a little bit of clarity. Alright guys, we are about to install the dry sump pump and pan, the pump and pan. One thing that I've kind of found that's useful as I've been putting it up, and I've installed this a couple times now, just trying to route my lines and everything, and so it's been on and off a bunch of times. But what I found is the O-ring can kind of get disturbed and pop out of its groove that's been machined into the oil pan. So what I found is using a little bit of assembly grease around the rim, right where the O-ring is, kind of helps keep it in place. It's pretty tacky, so it just kind of holds it still. So as you're grabbing and maneuvering the pan, it'll kind of keep it in place as you go up there to install it. So now that's what I'll do. I'll try and set the camera down, and we can put the pump and pan up through the frame rails and mount it to the block, and hopefully we don't have any issues. Let's mount this pump and pan for the last time.
What do you think the other side, like Spencer Rattler, has been getting hit? Yeah. Now he's got this defense that you're talking about. Does South Carolina have enough around Rattler to be a real threat in this game? Do they have the skill? Do they have the offensive line? Was not the case in the opener against North Carolina. Again, have to obviously.
Okay, you got to first slide the pump up through this little crevice on the passenger side of the block. Get it to fit. And there we are.
Such a good idea. Here's my question. Are you going to coach him up? You got 25.
Now let's see if I can hold it up there with my knees.
First guy we picked, 15-year soccer player, about to take $25,000 of my money. The over 4-week layover. How do you get?
That was in there.
Hey, that's a passion right now.
Pat. Don't underestimate the pressure. Here we go. You got your boots on. Rogers and DoorDash is counting us down to kickoff on ESPN. Will Rogers, known for spinning it around under Mike Leach, running a different type of offense this year. What will he be able to do against LSU? LSU is dominated in Starkville, but 10 of their last 11. Rolling in, put up some numbers against Grambling. Maybe guys on defense. How will they fare against Mississippi State? Kansas State. They have been so good non-conference regular season games against Power 5 opponents, and they whacked Missouri last year. Missouri, be careful with that. Much improved defense. Can they find any offense at all? Also, Kansas State's had to shuffle a little bit on that offensive line. See if they can get their running game going, which without Deuce Vaughn hasn't quite been in sync. And Missouri and Kansas State coming up. Just over an hour and 10 minutes away. We go down to Pat. Pat, well, you got the upright sitting there trying to get away the money.
All right, Pat, we bought a lot of time for you, so now we're all set.
Now I'm just going to shift the pan as far to the right as I can, because you have a very tight clearance to put the belt on, so you want it
the concept is kicker misses, everybody goes ahead and attacks.
far right as you can.
What we do is offer $25,000. He could make a 33-yard field goal, which is
Alright, so let's see if we're in the ballpark by test fitting our belt. Okay. It's got 90 degrees of turn, so there we go. Our pump and pan's installed. It's really in the right position because we can get our belt on. It's tight, but it's not really tight. I can get 90 degrees of bend out of it in the center as you're supposed to, so that's great. You can see that there's just the slightest gap there between the pump and the oil filter adapter. It's just very, very minimal, but yeah, so let me take you down here and maybe you can see the pump and pan. I had some clearance issues that I was really struggling with. I couldn't get the belt on, and it was because right up here, maybe a little too bright, but up here, the pump right there, it was, sorry, it's hard to get the light right. The pump was hitting the casting right here. And so I had to grind some more off of that to create a little bit of clearance. And you can see that clearance now, but it was touching before, so I had to grind some of that off. So yeah, and one more thing is they do call for silicone to be put in at the cracks where the timing cover mates the block in the front and the rear. So that's why you see that I probably used more than I should have, but oh well. So just ignore that for now, and it's all installed. All right, everybody, we are working on removing the heater core right now, as we've run into a little bit of stays on progress as far as installing the pump, and I can get into that in a little more detail as we need. But we're removing the heater core. We've got a lot of everything unbuttoned, unplugged, disconnected up here. You have to go into the dash though, and you do have some work to do in here. So I kind of want to show you some of that. So you have to remove the knee bolster. Obviously I've already got my seat removed. Then you remove the steel plate that holds, that secures a lot of things up there. Then there's another little plastic cover covering the wiring, but you really don't have to remove that. I'm going to show you the mounting points for the the heater core housing. One of them is right up there at the top right, as you can see. The other one is up there, the slightly rusty bolt next to all those wires. Once we undo that one, the heater housing as a whole should slide out the front of the car. All right, Dad, what have we done?
Well, we removed the heater core and the AC lines.
I know Dad said we removed the heater core, but to elaborate on that a little bit further, we removed the entire heater core housing, so this just goes through right to the passenger footwell area. We've removed all of our AC lines, the condenser, the accumulator, we got all those out. What we're thinking is we're going to cut a hole up here on top and swing the tank through and mount it up right here, so it's sitting up here like this. All the lines flow out right here and go down to the pump, which is going to sit right down there. So I think we'll be able to close off some of these holes that we don't need, and then utilize the ones that we want to as far as routing our lines go. But I was a little worried at first that we weren't going to be able to use this heater core housing after we got it out, but I think with a couple provisions, I think this is still going to work and be the most economical way to mount this. So that's our update for today. Hopefully we'll have a little more progress here shortly. What's up, guys? I just wanted to give you guys a little update as to what's going on. I received my fittings last week from Brown & Miller. I mocked all those up and measured all my lines using a little garden hose. I don't know where it is right now, but I mean, you get the picture. You know what a garden hose looks like. But I would just take it to each fitting and to each location and measure the length from crimp to crimp, and I sent that back to Brown & Miller just a couple days ago, so hopefully I'll maybe get some lines back in maybe a week or so. Oh, here's the hose. And so I mocked all those up. I don't want to mount anything permanently yet, just because depending on the size of the lines, like if it's a little too short or a little too long, it may necessitate some movement here. So that's again why some of this stuff's still hanging here sitting around. I just won't do the final mock-ups until I get the lines in and know where I need to make our slight adjustments. But overall, like I feel like we're in a great spot. I'm gonna have to narrow this mounting bracket for my oil filter adapter. It's just gonna create too much of an issue with these lines coming to bend around, because with these being -16 lines, they're huge fittings that come off of them. So just trying to create clearance if I can. So we'll probably end up narrowing this up a little bit and maybe adding a little side bracket over here and maybe to here, just to give it more stability. We're gonna end up mounting an oil pressure sensor right here into this fitting that Daly's provided for us in the oil filter adapter, because there's an issue right now with where the stock oil pressure sender is down in here. The oil pressure sender would get hit by that first scavenge fitting on the pump, so that created an issue there. So we're gonna just put a little a port plug into the side of the block right there, and we'll measure our oil pressure somewhere else. My oil pressure, my new oil pressure gauge is in. I haven't decided yet if we're gonna mount it on the A-pillar or if we're gonna replace the oil pressure gauge that's in the dash. I don't really want to take off the dash, but again, we're still only other update I have right now is we are going to be pulling this valve cover off, and we're actually going to swap this one on. This is from a Gen 1, so it doesn't have that oil fill hole like the Gen 2s do, or it doesn't have it in the same spot. Like this is threaded and takes the cap, but that one is not. That's actually for a valve cover breather system. The reason why we're doing this is because we have this vacuum regulator that is gonna obviously regulate the vacuum in the motor that we're pulling to prevent any we don't want to pull too much vacuum and create resistance on the ring. So I've got a little this is our vacuum regulator, but this is my adapter fitting that is going to sit in there, and we'll thread the vacuum regulator onto that and seal it up real good with O-rings. That's my solution to that. Since these valve covers are magnesium, we can't weld them, so I needed something that could thread on and seal and be able to regulate vacuum with. So that's what I just did right now. I wallered out the hole a little bit for the valve cover breather. I just had to make it just slightly bigger to take this dash 12 fitting. So I just ground that off a little bit, and now it fits pretty good. We'll seal it up with an O-ring, and then we'll be able to pull vacuum. So that was a success there. I'm glad that valve cover was available. I couldn't really find any, and it wasn't that badly priced either. So that's the update for right now. Waiting on lines to come in before we do our final mock-up of our mounting locations, and then I'll put the new valve cover on. I think that's all we can really do right now.